If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema you can get yourself a 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some 4-4-1-1 custom tactics and player instructions for you all, but just before we get into today's video, I'd very much appreciate it if you guys could drop this video a thumbs up, as it does really help out with the YouTube algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with custom tactics. For the defensive style, this is the same as all my other formations I use. I have this on balance. The reason for this is you can press when you want to press, and then you can drop back a little bit and be a bit more conservative when you need to be. A lot of people like using pressure tactics, but you know, if you can master balance, you will become a better player as a result, because we don't know how long these pressure tactics are going to be overpowered for, you know what I mean? So it's good to learn with balance, and to be honest, it's more fun and you actually do get a lot more control out of it. But if you want to use your pressure tactics, that's absolutely fine, go ahead. Moving on to the defensive width guys, I have this on 44. The reason being is people like to play primarily through the middle. They like to play a narrow style in this game. It's been the same for many years, so it's important to keep a lower defensive width to help, you know, negate that. But people do also like to go down the wing a little bit, which is why we don't have the width super low. I'm currently trying out on 44 and I've been having a lot of success, because I did have my width a little bit lower, but I was noticing people were still able to get down the wings a little bit too easily. So I've upped it to 44 and we've got a bit more coverage of the wings also. So we defend primarily in a narrow structure, but we also have the coverage to get to the wings too. Moving on to the depth guys, this is something I've also been experimenting with recently. I've tried like 50, 53, 55, and I've currently settled on 57. The reason being is I've tried to stop worrying about the through balls as much, if that makes sense. They're inevitable. If people get into the position to pull them off, they will do it. So it doesn't really matter what your depth is at this point, I've noticed. But you know, I like to up the depth quite a lot just so I can press a little bit higher up the pitch. And if somebody does play a through ball, we're not super high up the pitch either, if that makes sense. So we're pressing quite high, but we're not too high to the point where, you know, one through ball will kill us all the time. So 57 depth has been pretty good, but if you want to lower it or up it, that's up to you. But yeah, moving on to build up play guys, I suggest balanced. The reason for this is fast build up's pretty good, but the problem is when the gameplay is inconsistent, which it is a lot of the time, so you get like sluggish heavy gameplay, you can't keep up with the movement from your players, you know, it goes too quickly for you, you can't actually keep up. So I suggest using balance, as it's better for pretty much every instance of the bad gameplay that we have. And it's unfortunate that we have to, you know, we have to play with this heavy gameplay, but it's just how it is. So I suggest using balance, but if you guys want to try something else, that's also cool. Moving on to the chance creation guys, I have this on direct passing. This is something I cannot suggest enough if you are on the new gen version of the game. The reason for this is if you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see it's the only setting which actually makes your attackers move in that dynamic motion to really penetrate the defensive line and create chances. This is mainly a new gen thing because of the way defensive AI works. If you are on old gen, you can get away with using something like balance, but if you are on new gen, I do highly suggest using direct passing. Moving on to attacking width guys, because this is a wider formation with the left mid and right mid, I do suggest upping the width a little bit than you would in a narrow formation. So I'm currently having it on 48, so our defensive width is slightly lower, so we defend in a narrow manner, and then our attacking width is a bit higher, so we have that natural transition from narrow to wide. It's not really anything specific. If you want to have your width a bit higher, you can. I've just been using it on 48 because it's been fine. You know, you don't want to
up it too much to the point where your team is too wide, otherwise it can actually be very difficult to string passes together. So I've just been using 48 with this formation, and it's been fine for me. The players in box, guys, I have this on 5. The reason being is we want to get some players into the box, but we don't want to end up overcommitting the midfield if we have this setting too high, because we'd get counter-attacked very easily. So I have this on 5 so we can get some players into the box, but if we lose the ball, we're not going to get counter-attacked as easily, and sometimes we'll be able to press and win the ball back as well. So it does work very well, guys. If you want to up this or lower it, that's completely up to you. Corners and free kicks, guys, I just have these on 2 because, again, I like to pass to some people in the box from set pieces, but I don't want to overcommit my team to the point where I have no one back in case we get counter-attack. So if you want to up this or lower it, that's completely fine, but I just have this on 2. But the players you want to use, guys, in the striker position, because this is a one striker formation, I do suggest using a more well-rounded striker. So a player with good shooting, pace, dribbling, physical, you know, a player that has a bit of everything in that striker position. I'm using Robbie Keane because he's got the 5-star weak foot, he's got the pace, he's got the shooting, you know, because you have to compensate for the fact that there is only one striker instead of 2. It's important to get a well-rounded player in this position, I feel. Now, just in behind him in the cam or the centre forward position, whatever you want to call it, I suggest using a agile player, somebody that's creative, somebody that has the good movements of an attacking player. So I'm using Phil Foden because he's got that natural movement and he's very agile. So it's important to go for that kind of player in behind, I've noticed. For the left mid and right mid, you want to use like those winger style players, players that have the skills, players that have the pace, players that have the dribbling and the passing, that kind of thing. It's pretty self-explanatory in these positions, but you know, you really want to go for those players because they're like your playmakers down the wing and all sorts like that. Now for the left centre mid, I like to go for a more stay back player, a defensive midfielder, so I'm using Patrick Vieira. The ideal work rate for this position would be like a medium high, because they're going to be staying back and they're not going to be contributing too much to the attack because that's not their job. You want somebody with those good defensive stats and the medium high work rate. But for example, this version of Vieira is actually a medium, but because his stats are that good, it doesn't really matter. So primarily you want a medium high, but if your player stats are good enough, a medium or something like that is also fine. Now to the right centre mid, I suggest using a more box to box player. I'm using Park Ji-sung. He's got the high work rate, which is very important because he's going to be attacking and defending, and you need them to have very well-rounded stats such as good pace, good shooting, good defending, all sorts like that. You need them to be able to do a bit of everything. If you need a cheap player in this position that will do the job, Renato Sanchez's base gold card is still absolutely fine. But yeah, moving on to the left back and right back, I suggest using players that are, you know, either very defensive or good at attacking, or maybe a bit of both. So basically use the fullbacks you want to use. I go for a bit of a balance between attacking and defensive. So Theo Hernandez is a more offensive fullback and Kyle Walker is a more defensively solid fullback. I just like having that balance, but if you want to go for 2 defensive fullbacks or 2 attacking fullbacks, that's absolutely fine. Your centre backs and goalkeeper just need to be as good as possible. I'm basically just using Chesney and that for chemistry, but yeah, just use whoever you want in these positions. Now for the player instructions, guys, for the striker, I suggest stay central and get in behind. The reason for this is we don't need them drifting off to the wings as we've already got wide players, so it's important that they stay in those central areas. We have getting behind because we need them to make those runs. It doesn't mean you always have to play the ball in behind, but it's good that they make those runs by default because it helps trick the defense and pull players away from you, if that makes sense. And let's say I wanted to play it short to Robbie Keane, he could make that run in behind, I could tap R1 so he would cancel his run and he would come short, the defender carries running and we have a lot of space. So it does work in that sense, guys. Now just behind him I have stay forward. The reason for this is we don't want this player to come too far back when we are defending. Something that does help with this position is a high work rate. So for example, Phil Foden, who I have in this position, has a high work rate, and we have stay forward on the defensive support. So what this means is he has that high defensive work rate and the stay forward instruction, which actually counteracts each other. So he actually sits in a very nice position when we are defending, which is very cool. So I just have stay forward on this player because I don't want him coming too far back. And yeah, he sits in those decent positions. So if we win the ball back, we can start an attack nice and quickly. Now, for the box-to-box centre mid, guys, I just have completely default settings and cover centre. The reason for this is he's going to be doing a bit of everything. The only real important thing is that we have cover centre because we want him to cover those central areas, as we've already got a lot of wide players, you know. We need this player to cover the central areas of the pitch. Now, for the left centre mid, the more stay back player, I suggest stay back while attacking, stay on the edge of the box for the cross, and cover centre, because again, it's self-explanatory. We don't need him attacking because he's defensive. We don't want him getting into the box for the crosses because again, he's a defensive player. We need him to stay back, and we have him on cover centre for the same reason as Park Ji-sung. We need him to cover those central areas when we are defending. Now, for the left mid and right mid, I have come back on defence, get in behind, and get into the box for cross. The reason for this is come back on defence just helps with the defensive shape when we do lose the ball. It's not a park the bus tactic as such, it just means they will actually transition back into their positions. Get into the box for cross means they will make those transitional runs into the box when we are attacking. It doesn't mean we have to cross the ball to them, it just means they will get more involved and they will get into those attacking areas. Getting behind is kind of similar to what we have it on the striker for. It's just so they make those runs, it's so we get that movement out of them. So on the left mid and on the right mid, come back on defence, get in behind and get into the box for cross. And lastly, for the fullbacks, I just suggest stay back while attacking and overlap. The reason we have them on stay back is because we don't really need them to attack, as we already have good width in this formation. But let's say I do trigger a run forward with either fullback, we have them on overlap, so they do help stretch their defense even more, and they will overlap our winger to give us more options. So, you know, I have them on stay back, overlap, but if you want to have them on balanced attack or whatever, that is completely up to you. But yeah, that is everything for the video, guys. If you have enjoyed it or found it useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.